All right, you did it. For those of us in California, we made it 2 weeks of quarantine. And as the announcements have been coming in, we realized that it's going to be a little longer for all of us. And even some more states are getting the stay at home order coming in. So, hope you are all doing well and staying safe, caring for each other. Today I was going to talk a lot about our cycle, was my first thoughts, and the cycle that we can all get into in our marriages and our relationships with those close to us. And I decided I want to touch on it, but first I want to draw your attention to some news articles I've been reading. There's some positive reports that crime in cities with the quarantines is down overall. There's a decrease in, robberies and car break-ins and things like that. However, what's showing up that I find really interesting, because it really relates to the work that I do and my therapists do, is instances of abuse within the home are up. Domestic violence, child abuse, things like that are what the police are getting called out for right now, unfortunately. So I do feel this topic then becomes very relevant. And I just want to start off by saying I think one of the keys right now is grace. Grace for each other, yes, as neighbors, from afar, friends, family, but grace for ourselves too, right? This is hard. This is challenging and stressful in ways we don't know. We haven't experienced something like this before. And so as I continue to do my work with my clients, I notice this popping up is that it's hard to notice when these stressors of staying at home, working from home, or if you're essential and you're out in the community still needing to work, there's a layer of stress, of just attention, heightened alertness that our bodies have to be in when we're trying to keep social distance and being 6 feet apart, when we're needing to run a crucial errand to the grocery store, something like that. There's a heightened intensity to it all. And so we're either bringing that back home or experiencing it in our home lives as well. So grace for ourselves that, hey, this is hard. Let's slow it down for a moment before we react, just knee-jerk to something. Maybe we can get to a place where we go, okay, let me respond. Let me think about how I really want to respond to what my child said or my spouse said in that moment. So grace for each other as well obviously becomes key. And what I'm getting at there is this idea of thinking the best of that person. Again, whether it's a kid or a spouse or someone that you're living with right now, thinking that whatever they did it with the best in mind. The best toward you, the best of their ability, the best intentions in mind. So that said, I also want to get into some key, almost rules of fair fighting, as some might call it, when we get into arguments with our spouses. Now, some of the people that I really look up to and follow have received some training through them or through their organizations. And my therapist as well would be Sue Johnson and her work with emotionally focused therapy. It's a great couples therapy. I use it a lot. Another one is John Gottman, who has the Gottman Institute. He does a lot of great work. And then a third would be Terry Hargrave and restoration therapy. So check those out. I'm not the definitive end-all be-all in this subject. Definitely look up them, read what they're advising people right now and giving input on, and find therapists that practice their works. So again, like I was saying, I want to get back to and really come up with a few things right now that are helpful to try and keep in mind in any argument. Of course, first, that grace place, but it can get heated pretty quickly, right? So when it does, ideally, you're working really hard to not use any degrading language. No name calling, no put downs, no attack on that person's character and who they are. You could say something like, hey, that was really hurtful, what you said, but that's really different than saying you're an evil person, right? Or that felt very unthoughtful versus you're a thoughtless, uncaring bleep, right? Another thing I want to bring up is, maybe this is obvious, but like I said, with the police reports, no use of force, right? No physical pushing, shoving, blocking ways, blocking somebody from leaving a room. those are significant moments where it gets really escalated, crosses a line. It's really hard to repair from that. It's doable, but it's hard. Don't point the finger and blame, right? We remember that from Playground. If you've pointed the finger, how many fingers are pointing back at you, right? Try and use I language. I feel blank. I'm having a hard time with such and such, rather than you make me feel such and such. It's just cut straight to the point. I feel like I'm having a hard time, whatever it might be. Try and stay in the present. Don't drudge up old things. When you did blah, 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 you go to that place and now it opens up the argument and it gets you so off course, rather than right now, I'm feeling really let down because I asked you to take out the trash and it's still full. Another one, number 5, if you're counting, is to try and take turns speaking, right? This is kind of a common basic thing, but I like to look at it a little bit differently. Maybe actually try listening. If you're focusing on listening, focusing on hearing what your partner, what your child, what that person close to you is saying, it'll go a lot longer and you're going to really connect with them more, hear where they're at, they're going to feel heard, and they're going to feel less need to get loud, to get big, and to try and assert their point. Now lastly, one of the biggest ones is don't use the D word. D word being divorce, right? It's such an ultimate, final threat. It's not to say that it's a never kind of a thing, but if you're bringing it up, it needs to be brought up in a serious, serious conversation. And if any of these things are coming up for you, we really do want you reaching out to community virtually, right? People that you trust in your life to get support from, reaching out to therapists, reaching out to us, whomever it might be. So feel free to look us up or these other therapists and people that they've trained. We'd all love to help you. Next week, I want to talk about resiliency. It's what we're all trying to have right now, and it's what we're going to need if we're going to make it through this well. So not just our relationships and our marriages, but our own individual personal sanity, the whole deal. We need resiliency. So next week, I'm going to talk about some tips, some science and research supporting how do we be resilient people in a time of crisis.